We are back out on anchor this morning. The next couple of days are supposed to be beautiful and sunny. So this morning we left the dock and sailed about 4 miles south into this beautiful anchorage. And while we're here on anchor, it's time to start experimenting and testing with something we've had on board and have been planning for a long time. And that is a wind turbine. Now, we've always dreamt of putting a wind turbine on UMA because it complements solar really, really well. On a bright sunny day, there usually isn't much wind, and on a cloudy, sort of overcast day, that's normally where the wind shows up. And then while we're out sailing, we can make power from the spinning propeller. So between the 3 of them, as long as 2 are generating enough electricity for our needs, the 3rd doesn't matter as much, it's sort of redundant. And so far we've been able to do just fine on solar in the tropics because there's lots of sun all the time. And regen is doing okay, but until we start sailing offshore again, it's gonna be hard to really get a full understanding of how that's gonna work over a longer period of time. But wind is sort of the 3rd way of generating power that we've always wanted and haven't really found the right solution for UMA just yet, because pretty much every wind turbine out there built for a sailboat is a horizontal axis wind turbine. It looks like an airplane propeller or the big wind turbines you see up on the mountains. There's a reason for that, and that is because they tend to be much more efficient, but on a sailboat, the problem that we're having is that in order to get one large enough to create a usable amount of power, we just don't have a good place to mount one. If we put it on the back, it's gonna block our solar panels. If we put it on the mast, it's gonna vibrate down inside of the mast and it's gonna be super loud and annoying. The problem with horizontal axis wind turbines is when they start spinning up, they're pretty noisy. Even the quiet ones, and even the best of the quiet ones, are pretty noisy. And in order to get one large enough to actually generate a usable amount of power for us, it would need to be in the 2 to 3 meter sweep area, and there just isn't a good place to mount something like that on a sailboat as small as UMA. So we've been researching and looking into vertical axis wind turbines, and because they're less efficient, there's not as many options out there, especially in the marine industry. There's just nothing that's been sort of marinized and properly built for a sailboat. So, like all good projects on UMA, we're gonna have to build our own. So we've been researching and looking into this for a while, and what we've decided to do is buy something that's market ready, even if it's not gonna work very well, and experiment with it and slowly build it and rebuild it and replace most of the components until it's working the way that we want it to. We could theoretically build something from the ground up from scratch, but we find it much easier to sort of renovate something that exists than try to build something completely new. So back in Ålesund last fall, we received a package with our wind turbine in it. It's a relatively large vertical axis wind turbine consisting of the spinning blades, generator or motor, and then a charge controller to convert that AC electricity into DC for our boat. We're gonna need to modify it quite a bit to even get it to work on our boat, and then from there probably upgrade components as we go to get it to work even more efficiently. So yesterday before we left the dock, I fabricated a little bit of a mounting bracket to sort of put this all together, because the plan is to hoist the blades up the mast and keep the motor down on deck and use an anti-torsion line similar to what we have on our spinnaker to help transfer that rotational load from the spinning blades down to the generator. That way we can keep the heavy stuff down on deck and the light stuff up in the air. It's all just sort of a theory right now, and it looks good on paper, but today we're going to sort of test all the individual components and see just how it works and find out where our weakest link is. And we're just going to be hanging out on anchor. It's the first couple of proper spring days here in northern Norway, and so we're going to be enjoying the sunshine and just hanging out in this absolutely beautiful anchorage. There's probably not going to be any sailing in it, so it's just going to be a bunch of cruising life bullshit. All right. we've got most of the parts for the wind turbine sort of sorted out, and we assembled the blades at the dock the other day. And now it's time to sort of test hoist it and to see if any of this is even going to be worth it, to see if it even works. So hopefully we'll be able to generate some power today.
Everybody's slaving just to get ahead. Yeah, everybody's slaving just to get ahead.
Part of the whole thought process behind a vertical axis wind turbine is that the motor, which is big and heavy, can stay down here on deck, and then the blades, which are light, we can hoist up and tension. This is all just sort of temporary. We're not quite sure how or where we're actually going to install it in the long run, but right now there's space on the foredeck to hoist it with the whisker pole. So we strap the motor down so that it's not going to spin or lift when we put tension on this thing. And hopefully once everything's hoisted and taut, it'll be free spinning and make some power. Next we need to hoist the blades, which is going to be tricky because they're spinning, and then shorten the torsion line so that we can install the fitting down here and pop it in, because theoretically we're only going to be hoisting this on nice windy days when we're on anchor, and so we'll be able to disassemble the blades, store them down below, take the motor, store it down below, and then yeah, on good days when it's going to be nice and windy, we'll hoist it and be able to charge up our batteries pretty quickly. Originally this motor had this weird like metal aesthetic casing around it, which made it big and bulky, but I took that off and then added some eye bolts so that we could kind of strap it down. I wish I could have added them up higher, but it'll just have to do. This is, like you said, all very temporary, just a sort of proof of concept more than anything else. We might end up someday installing it permanently, but for now we just want to see if it works.
I ain't selling my songs to the record man, 'cause the radio stations won't reach this land. I ain't moving to the city and changing my name. Or you can keep your money, you can keep your...
There we go. Theoretically, this process is not going to be as difficult the second time, but the problem with wind turbines is you need wind, and the problem with wind is that it's difficult to do things while it's trying to spin on you. But I think we've got it sort of installed. And now we can tension it and hopefully it'll start spinning. Now, moment of truth.
Let go?
Yeah. Ready? I was wondering how this was going to behave. Yeah, it's gonna do better if it's solidly attached to something, that's for sure. This was more of what the experiment was about, is how well this torsion line is gonna be able to deliver that force to the rotor. What we didn't want to have is to hoist this big 30-pound motor up the mast, only to find out that it doesn't work. But this anti-torsion line that we're using from our spinnaker isn't really delivering like a smooth transition of force from the spinning blades. We'll see. We'll hook up like a 12-volt load and see if it works. In the long run, we want something up the mast permanently installed, but it's going to take a while to develop and build that because nothing exists right now that does that.
Or is it squeaking?
Why wouldn't it be squeaking? No, the fact that it can spin against this at all is impressive. I mean, it's probably only doing like 10 or 12 volts right now, but it's also only blowing like 12 to 14, which is when it should theoretically start to produce more power. I think the torsion line idea is actually a good one, because when it's lined up, it works, but we definitely need to figure out a better way to like strap it down, because when it's off axis a little bit, it gives like a very uneven pulse. Whereas when it's sort of more aligned, it actually spins pretty smoothly. So I think we're off to a good start.
spinning.
So this box will obviously eventually be installed down below somewhere, but for our testing phase, I just wired like a normal European outlet on the end of this because it's 3-phase AC coming out, so each one of these lines has a different phase of the AC, and so the ground and the hot and the neutral are running, and then we can just plug it in, and that's wired into the charge controller, and then that gets converted to DC. And for now I just have like a little DC light that I'll test.
Because you don't want the first test to be plugging into the boat, huh?
Well, and also because this charge controller, you can dial in the charge voltage from like 10 volts all the way up to almost 60 volts. And I want to, yeah, before we plug it into our battery bank, I want to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. And also it's going to kick in and charge at 12 volts a lot sooner in lighter wind. We're probably going to need like 15 to maybe 17 knots of wind before it's going to charge at a high enough voltage for our main battery bank. So while it's spinning light like this, I'm not sure it's going to be enough power. Oh, that's 14, yeah, it's 14 volts. 11 volts. I mean, yeah, technically it's working. It's generating power. It's overcoming. So theoretically, because it's working at 12 volts, if it starts spinning faster, we'll be able to get it up to 50. That's the theory, but we're gonna need more wind. Time for a proper smoke test. I'm going to temporarily wire it into a pretty small breaker, and then tie into the ground without having to clear out all the cockpit lockers and stuff. The only way we can tell how much power we're actually generating is to send it through the watt meter on the boat, so we're going to try that. I'm not sure it's going to put out enough voltage. Testing it with no load, it's not putting out enough voltage to even charge our batteries, so I guess we'll see what it does when we put batteries onto it. Doesn't tie the negative.
Ready? Mm-hmm. This one, right?
Mm-hmm. What was smoking? Like, that's like a legitimate smoke test. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, shut it off. That smells like thermal paste. Something's smoking in there. I don't know what it is. Alright, shut it off. It doesn't smell like burnt electrical anything. That's the weird part. We've started to see these show up on a lot of new boats, and they are terrible. They're these little screw terminals that they're meant for home wiring, which are solid wires, but on a boat everything's stranded copper or stranded tinned wire, and so they're really, really bad. The solution most people go with to sort of solve that is to sort of solder the tip of the wire together and then crimp it down, but then they tend to splay and split. But you also never really know if you actually have a good connection in these. Like with this charge controller, 2 of the 3 AC wires, they were crimped down on the insulation and not the actual bare exposed wire, which might be one of the reasons why we're not getting enough voltage. But yeah, these are absolutely terrible. If they have like a little plate in here that the screw presses the plate and then the plate sandwiches the wire together, they're okay. But if it's just a screw terminal into like an empty barrel like this, yeah, never use these on a boat. They're absolutely rubbish. So I'm taking this one out and replacing it with a proper plug rated for 10 amps at 250 volts, which is plenty. And then I'll replace the DC side as well with something different. But yeah, these are a nightmare. It's like taking out a loose tooth. Smoke test number 2. It's turning into like real smoke tests. How fun is that? All right, let's turn that breaker on again, and let's see if we can't get it to smoke, or not smoke, or do something. I mean, like, I took it all apart. I didn't see anything in there that gave me any indications that anything was melting, so I have no idea what was smoking. But the AC lines weren't really attached well, so maybe it was insulation. It didn't smell like electricity either. I still don't know why the voltmeter's not working.
Here goes nothing.
LED lights on again. Nothing smoking so far. Although it doesn't smell the best. Alright, let me dial up the voltage a little bit and see what happens. I'm not sure it's doing anything. It might just blowing 8 knots, so awesome. The user's manual for this thing is totally useless. It doesn't explain anything. So we're kind of just like trial and erroring this thing, and the voltmeter stopped working, so. Do a sniff test. This doesn't smell great.
It didn't smell great to begin with, though.
No.
Well, as proof of concept, it works. The blades are spinning, the motor is spinning. The only thing that doesn't work at all is the charge controller, because today it's blowing about 15 knots, so it should be generating some electricity, and it's not. So I think the next phase of this project is going to be to get a charge controller that we can use to convert the electricity into something that we can charge our batteries with. But it is quite a beautiful thing to look at. The hoisting system is also very much an experiment and also a prototype. We're gonna have to work on a better way to bring this thing up without it accidentally crashing back into our faces. And in the meantime, it is an absolutely gorgeous day, and it's going to be sunny for the next couple of days this week, so our solar panels should keep us charged. We're going to put them vertical so that we can get as much sun as we can.
You can gain the whole world. It'll cost your soul. Oh, everybody dies, clinging to fool's gold, yeah. You can gain the whole world, but it'll cost your soul. Oh, everybody dies, clinging to fool's gold.
We just came right out from the anchorage. We're anchored in about 5 meters of water, and right out here it drops down between 60 and 100 meters of water. So it should be a pretty good place to catch some cod. There's also a inlet and a fjord and the ocean all kind of meet right here. So yeah, we're gonna throw our lines in the water and see if we can catch some dinner. Nice sunny day. Should I throw a line in the water?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, there's a fish. Well, unfortunately, we didn't catch any fish today, which was a bit of a surprise because we went out yesterday and caught 3, but we ate them for dinner. And then this morning, we went for a bit of a walk along the beach and found this huge pile of chopped down trees that looks like they chopped down to add a new power line through. So we decided to come over here and have a bonfire this afternoon, but we didn't have any fish to cook, so we just raided what's left in our pantry, and we'll make it work. It looks like they even chopped it into sort of bonfire-sized pieces for us, so that's super convenient.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I wish we found this earlier. We would have been burning it on the boat this whole time. Those are all like the big pieces that we cut already. Yep.
How many do you think I can carry?
All of them.
I can carry 2. You think I could carry 3?
Of course.
I don't see a small one that I can carry though.
Maybe just 2 then. Shorter ones that are all sort of the same length.
There it goes.
That's wet, damp, heavy springtime wood. Certainly ain't the Bahamas. Last time we had a good bonfire on the beach was probably the Bahamas, where everything lights because it's super, super dry. But here everything's sort of still like humid from the winter.
Here's something that I've never expected to see in my entire life. You have a beautiful white sandy beach with super clear water, and right next to it there is snow. So, ooh, it's hard snow. That's actually really cool. This is literally everything that I absolutely love about this planet combined into one single frame.
How cold is that water?
It looks warmer than it actually is, let's put it that way. It's really freezing. We were thinking that we were going to jump in the water and then warm up by the fire, but I don't think I'm gonna go for that today. My feet, my feet are so red already.
They look cold.
They're so cold, but the water's so pretty. I wish it was warmer so I could jump in. But oh, check this out by the way. There's like little sand volcano things that happen when you walk. Just like... See it?
That is so bizarre.
That is so cool. Whew. Yeah, I'm not jumping in the water today.
Yeah, this fire is like very sad.
Yeah, it's not. How is it going?
Pretty sad.
I'm having a hell of a time trying to get this fire going. The wood has been soaking underneath snow for 6 months, so it's not exactly dry, but it's slowly getting there. If we can get it bigger, we might actually have something.
I need to put some warmth back in my feet.
You can put them by the fire. I mean, there's enough heat.
Yeah. One day we'll jump into the Arctic waters, but today isn't that day.
No, I don't think so.
Today is going to be a sit by a pile of wood kind of day.
Sausage-icle for you, my dear.
Well, the fire may not be big, but it's just enough to make a sausage, smoked sausage popsicles.
Yummy.
Yummy. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's perfect campfire drink, Norwegian style. Hot chocolate with a little bit of moonshine in it. It's not a fish, but it's the cod of the land. Sausage.
What
Oh,
kind
they
of
have-
fish again, lady?
They have chicken of the sea, now we have cod of the land.
That's for you, Eric. It's all gonna be bullshit. No sailing. Get it? Sailing.